Okay, my friends, check it out. We're going to work on our final voice thread for the cellular level of organization. And this is where we discuss how cells reproduce themselves. Okay, this is called the cell cycle. And this image here is an excellent depiction, I think, of when cells reproduce. They basically split. It's a process called mitosis, otherwise known as binary fission, meaning that one cell duplicates its genetic material and then splits into two. You can think of these cells as an egg with two yolks. You ever crack an egg and make an omelet with it, and you get a double yolk in there? That's kind of what happens. That's what this cell splitting genetic material and then dividing in half looks like anyway, even though it's kind of not the same thing. You guys probably don't even make your own breakfast. Yay. So, and here we've got this Henry David Thoreau down in a nice quote. It says, "All change is a miracle to contemplate, but it is a miracle which is taking place every instant." And believe it or not, every instant you've got cells in different levels of reproduction. So your cells are splitting. Countless cells are splitting every single moment. And we're going to talk about cell division and how it happens in different stages. Just a quick overview. This is the life cycle of the cell. This little pie chart. So the stages include interphase, mitosis, and cytokinesis. Cytokinesis literally means the splitting of the cell. So that's kind of a separate entity. But if we look at the pie chart now, interphase pretty much is all the growth that happens before a cell decides that it's going to divide. All right, so all the activities, its growth, its messing around with its genetic material, its DNA, the synthesis, the making of those organelles like the nucleus and the endoplasmic reticulum, that's happening all the time, and that phase is called interphase. That is the biggest, most active phase of the cell life cycle. And then when the cell decides it is going to split, it neatly divides its nuclear material or its chromosomes, its DNA, the instructions for making of everything in the cell, and the synthesis of proteins, right? And then one cell is made into two, and that's cytokinesis. And here's a little bit of a better illustration of one cell dividing into two. Here we go. We've got a whole cell here, and then you can see that in the nucleus, the material is starting to make a copy of itself, and then it starts to split like that. And then it pinches off even further, and eventually this is cleaved, and one cell is made into two. So cell division is defined as the reproduction of cells. It's a process called mitosis. Mitosis is specifically where the nuclear material is going to make an exact copy of itself, and the cell splits in two. Note we've got mitosis here, which is a division of somatic cells. Soma means body, so any of your body cells, your skin cells, your hair cells, your reproductive cells, your skin cells, your hair cells, your muscle cells, those are body cells. And then your reproductive cells, or gametes, that's the egg and sperm, they reproduce in a different process, and that is called meiosis. So meiosis is the nuclear division of sex cells. Mitosis versus meiosis. So that's what we're talking about here. We've got the egg and the sperm. Those are the gametes. So where the father is going to contribute his genetic material, and the mother, her egg, contains her genetic material, sorry, vice versa here. There's the egg, there's the sperm, 6 in one, half a dozen in the other. But they each contribute their genetic material, and then a unique being comes into this world based upon the merging of the genes in both of those gametes. With 2 sets of chromosomes, or 23 pairs, each, the mother and the father, contribute some to the mix, and then the merging is baby boy or girl. Talked about interphase. All right, interphase is the period where the majority of stuff is happening, and you can even break down that further into 3 phases of interphase. So there's G1, where G stands for growth, and then the S phase is going to be where DNA is synthesized and copied, and then G2, it's the second growth phase where we've got organelles and stuff happening in the cell, things growing. And then look at the little sliver of time within the life cycle of the cell where mitosis and then the cell splitting process called cytokinesis happen here. Only after all of this has taken place where will we have the cell division taking place. Important stuff. Here are the distinct phases of mitosis. We like to, we know that one cell of the body is capable of dividing into 2 clones, basically. If you're a big Star Wars or sci-fi fan, you hear about cloning, where we make an exact copy. That's pretty much what's happening. But we like to slow things down so we can understand how that happens. Well, how does this cell go from 1 to 2 identical cells? So we could look at this in an overview, but we like to see, okay, what exactly is happening with those organelles that we studied earlier in the week, so that we can follow them and see the different steps of mitosis. And when we know the different steps, maybe we can track when something goes wrong. So that's the whole idea, right? We want to look at something, break it down, figure out how it works. So we assign 4 phases in science of mitosis. There's the prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. All right, different things happen in these different stages. So we want to acknowledge the different organelles. We've talked about the nucleus and the centrioles and the centrosomes and the microtubules and the chromosomes, etc., etc. And all those structures are at work here. We're going to break it down and discuss the different phases, so that you can identify, if I say, what phase is this particular cell in right here, what phase of mitosis, you would know, okay, metaphase, because the chromosomes are on the middle. Got to be able to do that. Here's an awesome photo of cytokinesis, or the splitting of those cells. Check it out. You can see this darkened material here is the nuclear material, or the chromosomes, the instruction manual for the cell. We've made a copy, and now the cell is going to cleave down the middle, and it's going to become 2. The cytoplasm divides during cytokinesis, and cell division is pretty much over. The result is we've got 2 distinct cells. It's important that we know that cell life expectancy is increased with a slower mitotic rate. So different life forms, you could see, like a fly, common house fly, its mitotic rate will be far faster than a human's. So that's going to accelerate its ultimate, shorten its life, and ultimately leading its demise. We all have different life spans. Of course, a cell itself, a body cell, it's born, it has a growth rate or period during where it lives, and then it'll die just like anything else. But before it dies, it tries to reproduce just like people do. Stem cells are parent cells, basically. This is a stem cell in the center, and it is responsible for giving off these different cell lines. It can differentiate, what's called differentiating, into any of these cells. So a stem cell can become a red blood cell, it can become a adipose or fat cell, it can become a muscle cell or a nerve or an immune system cell. And that's really, really important, because if we can figure out how to manipulate these stem cells, we can use them to our advantage, maybe in science, in medicine, and as the video that we posted on and discussed during week 3, you learned a little bit about that and seen it in action. So stem cells are going to differentiate and specialize into different cell line. There are these compounds that are protein in nature, and they're called growth factors, and growth factors are responsible for making things happen. These substances, they promote or suppress cell division by messing with the genetic code, or the DNA. As stated, we're going to look at how cells divide, understand how our bodies or somatic cells reproduce, and then if we understand it well enough, then we can determine when cell division is not happening as it should. And up here we've got some cells that are normal, and they all look the same, and they're all performing the same function. We could say that these are, let's say they're cells in your gut and your small intestine. They're responsible for absorbing nutrients and fluid into your body so that you can grow. Look, they all look the same. And then down here we've got this kind of foreign looking body amid all these other cells, and they don't look anything like that cell line. This is a tumor, okay? And this is when cells do not divide appropriately. The cell division out of whack is what's something called neoplasia. Plasia meaning growth, neo meaning new. So new growth of a kind that we don't want in our gut cells. And so there are different types of tumors. We all know somebody, unfortunately, who's had a tumor. They can be benign, they can be malignant. Malignant means bad, okay? Mal means bad. And we call that cancer. We've a big area of study right now are the genes that are found around malignancies or around the process of cancer. We call them oncogenes. More information on differentiation. Cell specialization and differentiation occurs due to genes. So that's why there's a huge push for us to decode genomes and understand how those instructions might be misinterpreted by the body. More muscle car guys. Looks like some sort of Camaro. Well, they're going to do a smoky burnout now. Watch, here comes this guy, and he's going to blow everybody's doors off. It's like some sort of super duper Camaro. So differentiation or cell specialization is going to be the production of specific populations of cells that do certain things. So muscle cells contract and blood cells transport oxygen and carbon dioxide. Lung cells are going to help us breathe. And these cells organize themselves. And of course we know chemistry, cell, organ, tissue system. In that hierarchy we can see all that kind of playing out right here, where cells are going to specialize into tissues that are going to perform that given function. Apoptosis means programmed cell death. So if a cell starts to go out of whack, let's say we've got our intestinal cells here, and they're all absorbing nutrients and fluids and performing their specific actions. This is going to be let's say our intestinal cells are going to be simple columnar. epithelium, and they're going to be performing their duties as typical. And then we get some funky genes start to malfunction, and we have a potential cancer here. That cell will actually commit suicide. That cell will break itself down with the organelle lysosomes. Enzymes will circulate. That little lysosome will pop. There we go. Within the cell, and we'll have the cell blow up essentially, or implode, and then all its materials get either gobbled up by the immune system and excreted by the body, or recycled. So there's your overview of cell division, a process that is called mitosis. Somatic cell division involves the exact copying of the genetic material, or the DNA, from the nucleus of a particular cell. The cell division is called mitosis, and there are a series of steps that we will be responsible for understanding, so that we can move forward with our examination of tissues. Understand that there is a process called interphase, and interphase is where the majority of the cell cycle, we look at the overview of the cell cycle, there's a whole lot of growth and normal life that the cell goes through before any cell division takes place. But that little sliver on our pie chart of mitosis and cytokinesis, where the cell is going to split, the cytoplasm is going to cleave, and we've got one cell becoming two. It's really incredible. So you'll be responsible for understanding the information, and we hereby end our discussions of the cell for this semester.